And now we can start the show. Shortbox Nation, without further ado, let's welcome a real deal Jack's hometown hero and radio royalty. It's Al Letson. What up, Al?
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome back to the pod.
Yes. Yo, I have to say that there's truth in advertising because the last time I saw you in person
Yes.
was
Yeah, I
at
was gonna bring
Gotham
it
City Limits.
Refresh my memory. What were you picking up that day?
I don't remember. Because I like split time between Florida and California, I don't have a pull at Gotham City Limits. So I make sure I go in like every week just to be sure I get the new hotness. So I don't remember what I was getting that day. I think probably like I definitely been digging the absolute Batman, the absolute Wonder Woman. I like the absolute Superman. I'm not as crazy about it as I am Batman and Wonder Woman, though.
Same. I think Batman and Wonder Woman, it's like on another level. And
Yeah,
to be honest with you, I haven't given Absolute Superman a fair shot past issue 1, so maybe I'll pick that up and trade. But I am curious to hear, like, I guess when you're not in Jack shopping at Gotham City Limit, how do you get your comic fix in Cali? Like, what shops are you visiting there?
Yeah, so here in the Bay, which is where I am right now, I go to a comic shop. Oh my goodness, now I'm blanking on the name. And I have a pull there actually. Oh man, I'm just keep thinking Gotham City Limits, but it's something like that. Anyway, I have a shop here in hold on, I'm looking it up right now so
Yeah,
I
give
can
them
get
a proper shout out.
Cape and Cal. Yes, 3, 2, 1. So yeah, in the Bay, I live in Alameda, and I always go to Cape and Cal Comics, which is in Oakland. It's an amazing shop. I love it just as much as I love Gotham City Limit. I mean, those two shops, they're so perfect, right? Because they like what I love about both of them is they feel like the old school shops that I went to as a kid. The big difference though is that they're super welcoming. Like the shops that I went to as a kid, I used to go to Zeno's in Jacksonville. Man, Zeno's it's classic.
It was cutthroat. Like we're talking like comic shops where like they were quick to pull your nerd card. What are you doing here? What is the
exactly?
Do you know the first appearance of Mr. Terrific? No. All right. Well, then
Yes.
no comics for you. Yeah. Comic Nazis.
Exactly. Whereas like Cape and Cal and Gotham City Limits are totally great and welcoming. And because I used to my joint for years, for many years, was Universe of Superheroes.
Oh man, come on.
Park Street, and then Black Hive on Park Street.
Yeah.
And
it's went through so many, and that's usually how I gauge when I meet people that are like, oh man, I collect comics and I live in Jax. It's like, all right, what era of the shop in Riverside were you? Were you there at Universal Superhero days? Then you're OG, Black Hive Comics. All right, I see. You came in the second wave, and then all the other different iterations that come after.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, man, been a comic nerd for forever and a day.
Al, before we really get into our comic nerd bag and get to talking Mr. Terrific, I want to first congratulate you, as well as the entire Reveal crew, on 10 years, man. 10 years of Reveal, of superb investigative journalism. I was listening to the 10-year recap episode that you guys dropped, I think, earlier this month or last month, whatever it may be. I'm listening to it now, playing catch up. And first of all, as someone that edits his own show that's really big into production and sound quality, you guys have one of the best sounding shows ever. Are you recording from the this episode or this interview from the Real studio?
Oh yeah, this is where. Well, it's not like my studio for Reveal is like in my bedroom, and I've just cordoned off a portion of it.
Nice.
We used to have like a dope studio pre-pandemic, but then the pandemic came and all that went away. So yeah, now I record out of my bedroom and it works. But yeah, man, thank you for the props on it. Like I never, well, first of all, like getting into journalism, like it was never the thing that I was longing for, just what I stumbled into. And so to do it this long and to work with such amazing people, you talk about the editing on the show and all of that, putting it together. all I do is talk pretty. Like, there's so many other people that, like, put it together and make it what it is, so I feel really, super honored to have been in that position for a decade now.
I really enjoyed hearing you guys are like highlighting some of the big stories that you guys have covered in the last 10 years, bringing back some journalists that have contributed these stories and led them and etc. And you're kind of like the narrator and guiding us through that. So, and there's a couple of stories that I need to go play catch up on because I was like extremely fascinated by it. But I'm curious to hear from you, with 10 years underneath the belt as the full time host, I guess what's been the most important lesson you've learned from doing, reveal? And then also, I guess, could you talk about embracing your role as not only a host, but coming into your own as a journalist? Because that was something you said in the recap was that, you were a little reluctant to call yourself a journalist in the beginning, but, at some point, you really started embracing that role and giving it the honor and the, respect that it deserves. I guess, what do you think about that now?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that for a long time, I considered myself a storyteller because, that's what I fell in love with. And when I got the job at Reveal, I still thought of myself as a storyteller. But, I'm surrounded by all these journalists, and then I started learning, like, what the work of journalism is, at least the brand that we do at Reveal, which is accountability journalism, like holding people accountable for what they've said and what they've done. And, in 2016, when Trump was running, he was very much, talking about the press like we were the enemy. And I felt like it was really important for me to like step up and take that mantle and say, like, no, I am a journalist. Um, because I was doing the work, but I think that also like there was a time in my life when I think what was really one of the things that I used to think was important was like what degrees you have behind your name and blah 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 and all that stuff. And now at this portion of my life, I'm like, man, can you do the job? Can you get it done? Do you have a passion for it? And I do. I never went to J school, but I feel like Reveal has been my on the job
Yeah.
school of journalism, and it's been a wild ride.
Hell yeah. Well, dude, I'm a huge fan of Reveal. I listen to that show and I'm like, man, this dude's got the silkiest voice in all the radio.
Dude, I think the same thing when I listen to you. Like before we started recording, I was telling you like how much I love your voice. Like you're great. You sound so good.
Well, I extend the same compliment back. Al, I want to know though. I listed off the entire accolades. You're a very multi-talented individual, especially when it comes to the writing side of things. I guess what's more challenging, or which one do you prefer more? Do you prefer writing plays or poems, or writing scripts for TV and radio, or comics in this case? Like, which one challenges you the most, and which one do you enjoy the most? Like, and I guess, not to compound another question, but I guess how different is your approach to each one of those? Is it vastly different, or pretty much the same?
So I enjoy them all equally because they all work very different muscles. They're all very similar in a lot of ways, but like for me, a lot of times, like working on a comic script is like a puzzle. Because you're taking these still images and thinking about how it all connects together to tell a larger story, and how you I love like trying to figure out how much I can fit into a page and what I can't fit into a page. Um, I love in comic books like thinking about the page flip. I love in comic books thinking
Hmm.
about how you're going to end it. Like all of those things, like it's like this mystery and a puzzle that like it just I love it. I absolutely love it. And then there's something about like when you get the art back
Hmm.
after like the experience of Mr. Terrific has been so, might I say, terrific because um we've got two artists on it, and every time I send out a script, so we've got Edwin Galman who is doing like there is a present day story in the book, and then the rest of the book is like a flashback story,
Oh, that's
which
cool.
is Val DeLandro. And so every time I send it off to them, and like 20 days later I get these beautiful pages that by far exceed whatever I had in my head. I mean, Val makes me look good. I'm like, "Damn, dog." Like,
That's good.
that
Yeah.
that panel, that's like, okay.
You're like, wait,
So
I wrote that? I
I
wrote
wrote
that
that,
part?
yes,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
yes,
yeah. That's what
yes.
I meant. That's what I meant.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what I meant. So it's, so yeah, man, it's so that is amazing. I think, you know, with a TV show, like I can't talk about what the show is, but I can tell you that I created a show with, a big network, and we are opening up a writer's room, and I am, show running it. So I came up with the concept, but I've never show run a show before, so they partnered me up with someone who had. And so writing for that is a very different thing, than say writing for a comic book. Um, but it's also very fun. I love doing it. I love, like, you know, how you have to think about it. It's just a very different feel. Um, I would say the thing that I love more than all of it, though, isn't really the writing. The thing that I love the most is performing. So I love writing like solo performances and getting on stage. I am a typical middle child, and I need people to clap for me. I am addicted to clap cocaine. Like, if I can get people clapping, then, like, oh, you love me, you know. That's my number one love, and writing is my number two.
Al, when it comes to being a showrunner, I understand it as like you are the yeah, a showrunner is kind of like the project manager of like a show, right? Like they kind of like make
Sorta.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
explain it.
I would say, like, the best analogy for a showrunner is, like, you think of a TV series or a TV show as a corporation, then the showrunner is the CEO. And you're handling everything from, you're overseeing the stories, you're handling your staff, you're hiring the actors, you're hiring the grips, you're hiring, you're doing everything. It's a really big job. And I mean, the show that I am currently making, is probably, when it's all said and done, going to be like, you know, $6 million an episode. We'll
Wow.
probably do like 8 episodes, and $6 million an episode isn't really all that expensive for TV. Like, most TV people, when they hear that number, they'll be like, "Ooh, ouch." That's a, you know, when I was, for example, I think when I was working on Monarch, we were probably hitting somewhere around 15 million an episode.
Wow.
Um, so, you know, but it's, you know, the CEO of the TV show, the showrunner, you're kind of responsible for all of that. So it's a really big job. Um, and yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. I've been working on TV for now since 2017, and I've, you know, the vernacular in the business is like, I've sold some shows. Like, I've had ideas that I went to networks and they bought them, and we developed them. Uh, and they never made it on air. So now with this one, this is the first one that I'm developing that's moving into a writer's room. So it's a big step forward, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I can't wait for the announcement. I know that's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
But we're talking about writers' rooms, and it's got me thinking about writers' workshops. And the last time that you were on the podcast, which was around 2017, back when you had just completed the DC writers
Mhm.
workshop, and you had a story coming out, and I think it was called DC New Talent Showcase Issue One, which was like an annual a special comic book that they put together after every one of their workshops.
Mhm.
You had the privilege of writing a short Nightwing story that featured the Bat family, so which was insane, right? It's like, whoa, your first
Yeah.
DC work is writing Nightwing, and getting to write the Bat family, and now 8 years later you're getting to once again work with DC. I guess could you kind of fill us in terms of in terms of your comic book career, going from releasing that short story, having graduated from the DC Writers Workshop, to now 8 years later, like getting your own story. I guess, what was the inception of the Mr. Terrific series? How did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, sure. So, like, the DC comic, writers workshop was excellent, in the sense that, like, Scott Snyder was our teacher, and Scott was great. Like, he's a great writer and a really good teacher. And then also, like, my cohorts in that class, they were, you know, some of them, uh, I mean, it's been years now, and some of them, like, they're like family. Like, I talk to him all the time,
Oh,
and
that's
we
awesome.
met in that writers class. So that was great, and I got to write Nightwing, and then after that, like, that was right around the time when my TV career kinda picked up, and so I just started writing a lot of TV and kept thinking that, like, "Oh, I'm gonna get back to doing some independent comics." Um, I didn't really have any pitches for DC. I didn't have any real ideas, so I wasn't really pushing it. Every now and then I would check in. I had this one idea, and I would check in with this editor who worked with us there in the writers' workshop, and she's the editor on Mr. Terrific, and she's great. Andrea Shea, who hands down is one of the best editors I've ever worked with. She's amazing. Um, I mean, hands down, she's so good. Um, so anyway, I just kind of worked in TV and Reveal, and that was it. And then Tom King did "You're Wearing the Shirt." Did- yes, yes. Tom King did the series where it was
The Strange
Strange
Adventures.
Adventures,
Yep.
Strange Adventures. He did Strange Adventures. I have to say that like I'm a huge Tom King fan. I what I love about Tom is that he swings for the fences every
Yeah.
time. Sometimes like the story isn't for me. Sometimes I'm like, but most of the time he knocks it out of the park. Even the stories that like are not for me, like I love the ambition of what he's trying to do. Like
Agreed.
he's such an ambitious storyteller, and it just makes me super excited to read his work. Anyway, he did Strange Adventures, and Mr. Terrific was in there, and there was one page, just one page. Where I had never really connected with Mr. Terrific before. I thought like he's cool or whatever, but never thought much about him. But there was a page where Mr. Terrific was talking about that his wife died and she was pregnant, and he basically admitted that, he didn't want to be a father. And like that guilt and that feeling, that heaviness. And I immediately connected with the character because it was such vulnerability that I had never seen from this character before, or really a lot of comic book characters, I don't see that kind of vulnerability. And when I saw that, it just spoke to me in this way that like I wanted to do something with Mr. Terrific. Because I felt like, oh, I get him now. I understand. Like Tom helped me understand him, even though, like officially, that book is a Black Label book and not in continuity. It still taught me something about what could be said about the character. And so many years ago, when I was in the DC Writers Workshop, I hung out with Tom King, and Tom King was telling me like the way that he kind of figured out how to get in and do all these stories at all these different places was taking obscure characters and really like breathing life into them.
Huh.
That's
Yeah.
that was his key to his success.
Yeah, it makes sense because I think his big breakout was like Omega Men, which was about like
Hmm. Yep.
Kyle Rayner, but a bunch of also like, kind of B C list characters as well, the Omega Men itself. And then like that awesome Vision story, a
Yes.
series that he wrote for Marvel. So that tracks.
Yeah, so that's what he was doing, and that's what he told me. He said, "If you can figure that out, boom." So So that's what I was thinking when I started thinking about Mr. Terrific, that he is and this is before James Gunn put him in Superman. But like I thought, like, he's the people know him, but they don't know him. And I could take him and do something with it. But my idea was that because I write TV, I want to write in the DC and the Marvel universes. Um, and I have not had any luck kind of breaking in. I have friends a friend of mine was the showrunner on the new series with Ironheart, Riri Williams that's
Oh,
coming out.
cool.
So I know a lot of people who have worked in those universes, but I haven't had the chance yet. So I thought, why not write a pilot for Mr. Terrific as a TV show? Um, I was under no illusion that anybody would ever turn this into a TV show. I just wanted to make a sample to show them that I could write superheroes and in a grounded way. So I wrote this whole pilot. I loved it. I thought it was great. My team loved it. They thought it was great. Um, and right when I finished it, the writer strike was going on. So I couldn't send it into DC Film and TV because I'm a member of the union. I wouldn't do that. But The comic book side, I could totally send it to. And because I knew an editor there, Andrea, who worked with me on the writer's workshop, I was like, "Hey, Andrea, like I created this pilot. I think it would make a great comic book. Do you want to read it?" And she was like, "Hell yeah, I'll read it." So I sent it to her. She read it. She wrote me back. She was like, "Oh my God, this would make a great comic book." She was like, "Give me some time because the timing has to be right in order for us
Hmm.
to put it out, you know, but give me some time and we'll start pitching it." I was like, "All right, cool." Time turned into a year and I didn't hear from her. And then James Gunn tweeted the first picture of Mr. Terrific from the movie, uh, and everybody was talking about it online. Andrea was like, "It's been a year. I'm sorry, but now's the time." And I was like, "Let's do it." She was like, "Give me a pitch." I gave her a pitch. We
Wow.
worked on the pitch, yeah, and then her editor, her boss said, "Yeah, let's do it." And so yeah, they took the idea. Me and Andrea like shaped it a little bit. DC loved the idea of doing a year one. That was my pitch, is that because what I had written was like an origin story for him, kind of redefining the origin story. And DC loved the year one thing, but they were just like, "There's so much going on in the universe now. We
Mhm.
would like you to have like a little bit that gives us now and flashback."
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
Man, that is an impressive story. I mean, and just serendipitous is the word that comes
Yeah.
to mind. Because I mean, you brought up Scott Snyder, right? Like him being a teacher in the workshop.
Hmm.
Well, your story, Mister Terrific Year One, kind of I think like it takes place within what Scott Snyder and DC is doing with All In and the Absolute Universe, and like some of those things as well. James Gunn, the hype behind him joining DC studios, and then the Superman movie getting so much acclaim. And to your point, Eddie Gathegi is the actor that'll be portraying Mister Terrific in the live action. But yeah, I just perfect timing for it. And if we're to go like maybe a level deeper, I also think it's a perfect timing for a Mister Terrific series. I try to do, to your point, Mister Terrific is a character I'm familiar with.
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, he's got the best jacket in all of comic
Yeah,
books.
right on.
And I do love that Tom King runs Strange Adventures and how he's kind of like the second main character and his portrayal in that. I actually ended up reading um issue 2 this morning, which is the issue where Mr. Terrific is, contemplating taking the case of, investigating Adam Strange, and it's the whole scene of his T spheres quizzing him the entire time, and and all of that. Such a great issue. Even if you don't know anything about Mr. Terrific, that one issue kind of like gives you a good broad stroke of who he is. But prior to that, it looks like his last standalone series, his only standalone series as Michael Holt, was from 2011 when DC did New 52. I think he also starred in that Terrifics run.
Hmm.
I forget the name of the writer, but it was like Ivan Reyes who did the art. Looked
Hmm.
amazing. And he's kind of like a supporting character, I think, in the current Justice League Unlimited series. So I say all of that to say, the solicitation for this comic book states that they call Mister Terrific the secret origin of Summer's breakout superhero, which is like, you know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
the breakout superhero. All right. So I guess
Yeah.
Al, hit it.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to know, Al, what are some characteristics about Mister Terrific that you feel make him that will make him the breakout superhero? Like, I guess, like, is the hype deserved? What is it about Mister Terrific that fans should get excited for?
I What I love about Mr. Terrific is that he uses his mind, that he outthinks everybody. When his tag used to be he's the third smartest man in the DC universe.
Yeah,
Uh, my series explains who number one and number two are, but
of
I
course.
would just say that like being number third is still pretty badass, and like
Yeah,
he's able to fix
in a
them.
world of gods and Superman, like third is
Yes.
not too shabby.
It's not too shabby. 2, I think that, what I wanted to do, and I think what I love to do with my writing is, like, just imbue it with a whole lot of heart. And so while there is tragedy and despair that the character has to overcome, there's also this big pumping heart in it. that tells you who Mr. Terrific is, the sense of responsibility, the love. One of the things that I did not like about the New 52 Mr. Terrific version was that they moved Mr. Terrific. I think he was in Los Angeles. Um, and I think that like what drives me a little bit crazy, especially in the DC universe, is when you take a character and you put him in an actual city. Like I'm like, no, I want my characters to be in Gotham, in Metropolis, in
Mhm.
Gateway. And so, like, I got to put Mr. Terrific in Gateway City, make him connected to Gateway City. Gateway City is where the first Mr. Terrific was from. Like, it all kind of makes sense. And so, yeah, I think that, like, he's just, he is a good, good man who at times messes up, but when he messes up, he goes out and he gets it right. And that's what I really loved about him is that like the story we're telling is a story about a guy who made a big mistake. Um, but he's man enough to say I made a mistake and go out and fix it. I feel like that if we had more people like that in the world would be so much better.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah, and also like, he's got the best jacket in comics.
Come on, man.
He's,
Al Al, I gotta say, I was
mhm,
thinking today, and I was actually talking to Drew, a good friend of mine, bartender at
yep,
Sidecar. You've met him a few times, and
yep.
I was like, hey man, you know Al Lesson, right? He's like, yeah, and he knew your drinks. He was like, yeah, he gets in every time, gets an old fashioned. Occasionally, we'll talk comic books. So I'm like, did you know he's writing a Mister Terrific book? And he was like, and I mean, Drew was, in his very loud way, he was like hype. He was like, yo, what? Are you serious? And the more in his hype kind of got to me, and I was like, man, that is a huge deal, man. As someone that I've known for so long that loves comics as much as I do, to have this opportunity, and then I got to thinking like, Mr. Terrific is perfect for Al.
Yeah.
It's like a multi-talented black man that looks damn good in a leather jacket. I mean, they've got a lot of similarities.
Dog, I'm gonna put that on my tombstone. Thank you
Yo,
very much.
absolutely.
Al is like Mr. Terrific, multi-talented black man with looks good in the leather.
Take
Right
it.
on.
All right, Al. I want
Yeah,
to.
go ahead.
Did you have something to say? Good.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to, we're talking about the story. I wanted to read the solicitation that DC has for issue one, and then I want you to add anything to it, and maybe specifically, maybe talk about how the story has evolved from the original pilot. I am curious what the story about the pilot is. Actually, a little behind the scenes. I was fortunate enough to you sent me a copy of the pilot. I have that in my email. I'm motivated, super motivated now to actually give that a read through. It was a lot longer than I thought when you first sent it. I was like, oh, it'll be 2 pages. No, it's a full on pilot. It's a full on
Yeah.
script, people. But I'm gonna read solicitation, and I want to get your thoughts. All right. Here's what we got from Mr. Terrific Year One. If anyone's interested, the secret origin of Summer's breakout superhero. Brilliant young inventor Michael Holt's life was destined for greatness, yet everything screeched to a halt when his wife Paula and unborn son were killed in a car accident. The Holts once shared ambitious dreams of using their technology to help others, but after the tragedy, Michael retreats from society and sells Holt Industries to mysterious and craven tech billionaire Athena Prescott. The domino effect of Michael's actions set off an explosive chain of events that take a not so ordinary man from the depths of despair to the heights of heroism. Meanwhile, in the present day, Mr. Terrific continues his research into what became of Darkseid after the events of the DC All In special, and comes to realize that his past and the present might be inextricably linked. Discover all the secret sorrows and triumphs of Mr. Terrific and how he came to be in this thrilling modern retelling and expansion of his origin story. Wow.
That's a great sum up. They did a good job with that. I
Yeah.
haven't I haven't read that, but that's really that's it. I mean, I think, for me, um, the origin of first of all, like just foundational. Uh, the gentleman, what is it, Oslander, and Mandrake, I think was the
Yes.
artist. They did excellent work. Like I love that episode, that issue of the Spectre. I think it's Spectre 54. It's great. But the thing that I thought about a lot when I started thinking about like how to redo this origin story or how to improve the origin story or maybe expand is the right word,
Hmm.
expand this origin story, was that, Mr. Terrific's origin starts in somebody else's book, which means the focus is on what the Spectre wanted to talk about and not what was going on with Mr. Terrific. So to me, it felt like you take that as a basis and then you begin to fill out all the other things that was into it. I think that in the Spectre version, it's sort of like Michael is like, "Oh, my wife died. I'm sad," and the Spectre's like, "Don't be sad. Be a hero." And I felt like that wasn't motivation enough, right? Like that I needed something that like kicked him into action. And I love the idea that that sometimes like every action has a equal and opposite reaction, right? And so like, if Michael sold his company and selling that company like triggered something, then he's got to figure out how to fix it. Um and to me, it felt like, okay, that's a valid way to motivate my character to do something crazy. Because it's really crazy to put on leather and put a T on your face and have floating balls and go out and fight crime. And you're just a normal dude.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you're fighting with these gods and these villains that have powers you can't even imagine.
Mhm.
So to me, it was all about figuring out like a good motivation for the character to go out and get it. Um, and that was the beginning of it. Um, it's very different than the pilot that I wrote. I would like to think that, like, the character of Michael is consistent, and the character of Michael's best friend, Dre, is very consistent, um, but the circumstances are really different, mostly because, like, a lot of the circumstances that I was playing with in the pilot had to do with AI, and with, sentient, machines, and DC had just gone through a whole thing with sentient machines in absolute power. So it was like we really can't do that beat again. So it was like we figured out something else. But yeah, I think it turned out pretty well.
I had something and then I lost it. But I actually ended up reading that same that first appearance, that
Hmm.
Spectre issue 54 this morning, and I agree. Reading it, I'm like, man, Michael just sat there the whole time hearing Spectre give this long-winded spiel. New to me, I didn't know there was an original Mister Terrific prior to Michael Holt. So that was all kind of new. So I do like the sound of putting Michael front and center in his story as well. And I wanted to go back to something you said, yeah, because I read the first issue of the New 52 run from 2011, and you said you're not a big fan of when heroes are placed in real like cities. Why is that? Is it just, I guess, do you find more creative liberties with like a fictional city?
A little bit, but I mean, I think like just being really honest, like I think the only characters that end up in real cities are black characters. Like, why do the black characters always end up in Los Angeles or Detroit? And
Wow,
why
that's
can't we, like, if you think about it, like, I can't think of any white DC character that is from a regular city, but I can name several black characters that are from regular cities. Like, Cyborg is from Detroit,
yeah.
Detroit. Mr. Terrific was in Los Angeles. Um,
Hmm.
I can't remember. There's a couple other ones. So for me, it was just like, I just want to lean into the fantasy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I just want to lean into the fantasy. And I think for me, it was also really important to connect Mr. Terrific to the larger world of DC comics and DC characters. So there are characters that pop up in this year one that you're not expecting to pop up, that
Oh
he
wow.
has had long relationships with that you didn't know about. There's in issue 4, I pitched this to Andrea and Marquise, who is also an editor on it, and at first they were like, "Huh," and then involving a character that you're just not really expecting, and
That's
then
cool.
later on they were like, "Oh," I'm like, it's pretty awesome how it all plays together, and I will also say that, like, there are stories that happened about Mr. Terrific in the last couple years that a lot of people have not read, and so there are things that have happened in his life that are significant, and but they in my opinion, they felt like they were a little bit out of the blue, and so what I've wanted to do is figure out a way to connect all of it and make it all flow really well.
So is it safe to say that I mean, you there's not like hundreds of Mr. Terrific issues to go read and catch up on. I mean, maybe if you count like all his supporting roles, but it sounds like you've done a lot of like homework in terms of like reading his
Yeah.
origin story, anything out there. Does anything stand out to you in terms of like that was done kind of interesting with the character, maybe like a plot device or an appearance or something that's happened in the comics?
Yeah, I mean, I thought all of them were all of them had something that I dug about it. I mean, I think that what was interesting in the New 52 is the take on the technology and like what Mr. Terrific was all about.
Hmm.
I think to me, like the number one thing again is Tom King. Like Tom King's portrayal of the character really like it is a different portrayal than what I am doing in the comics or
Hmm.
in the because his portrayal is outside of the continuity. My portrayal is like in the continuity and has to figure out a way how to work with Justice League and all of
Yeah.
that type of stuff, right? So they're not one for one. They're not the same, but I took a lot from what he was doing.
How difficult on that topic? How difficult is it to factor in like the continuity aspect? Because not only are you telling an updated origin story and expanding on what came before and telling giving your own fresh take on it, but you're also from the solicitation it's a twofold story where you're telling a story in the present as well as the past. You've got to tie in the what Darkseid did in the DC All In special. So I guess like how much difficulty I guess how difficult is that, or is that where your editors have like come in and provide that support?
Well, so what the editors do is that like I would pitch something out.
Mhm.
Um, And if they liked it, they would give me reference material. They'd be like, "Oh, you
Okay.
should read this. You should read that," and then I would read it and get a fuller sense of it. I think that what my kind of storytelling superpower is that I can kind of see a long narrative arc pretty quickly, and so what I saw from when the All In special came out. They sent like I was pitching right around this before All In came out. But so they sent me the All In special like a month or two before it came out, and I got to see what it starts, how it started. But I also there's plot points from older issues that I saw how they played out, and then my superpower of like being able to see the long arc was able to connect all those things and I connected it and figured out how it made it work. I love doing that stuff. So for me, like I know a lot of people they don't like dealing with continuity. They don't like figuring out and I understand it because it definitely can be a pain in the butt when you're trying when you want your character to do X but you can't do X because
Yeah.
it's been done here and there. But for me, like it's just a challenge. It's a storytelling challenge. It's a puzzle, and
Yeah.
like I just think about how to move things around. I am super happy with the way that the book starts and how we are able to bookend it really well at the end of episode 6 or issue 6. And so, yeah, and I've got an idea for another miniseries for Mr. Terrific that I really want to do. We'll
Hell
see how
yeah.
this one sells.
And
But we'll see.
it's got to be cool. It's got to be a cool full circle moment. Scott Snyder being in that class, getting to learn from him, and then getting to work off of like this huge story that he's spearheading. I guess
Yes.
what lessons or skills are you tapping into from that workshop from 2017 in this story? Because I imagine like maybe some of that barrier to entry was eliminated because you just went through a workshop, like you kind of understand DC's tone and how they want things written and things like that. Is that true?
Yeah, totally, totally. I think that thank God for Andrea because I had the workshop was like 7 8 years ago, and I think that the higher ups at DC were a little bit worried whether I'd be able to do it because you know TV and comic books are very different mediums and trying to how do you do that. But I think that like what gave me the upper leg is that I had worked with Scott. What Scott is really good at and what he preached to a lot with the class was like to find that personal thing that you feel or you want to talk about and then surround it with the big thing like comic books are got to be big, Like nobody wants to read a comic book that feels so subtle and soft. Like it's got to be big and loud. And if you look at Scott's work, it's big and loud, right? Like big swings, big swings. So I think that, like, what's interesting about I think Mr. Terrific is that the personal thing that I really wanted to talk about was in 2022. My best friend passed away from cancer, and it just it I am like a different version of Al now. Like I am the version of Al without Ian, and I wanted to find a way to talk about grief and brotherhood in a comic book, and then surrounded with all this big, with the trappings of dark side and all these other things, and an evil technologist billionaire. I mean, evil technologist billionaire, like where would we find one of those? So I was just, thinking about all of those things,
Yeah.
and the stuff that I learned with Scott, like, was a perfect way to, like, channel it all and think
Mm.
about it. So I think what is really what I have not seen from Mr. Terrific in all the iterations that I've seen of him is, including, like, the Tom King thing, is that he's a very solitary man. That he is, kind of alone. And the question I had is, like, how did he get that way? Even in the Terrifics, he's a very solitary dude. So I wanted to figure out, like, how did this guy get that way? And the way that guy got that way, I understand it, because, like, when Ian passed, like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just
Mm.
wanted to, like, you know, I I had to work, so I wanted to work, and I wanted to come home. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I think Mr. Terrific, like, took it a little too far, obviously. So those were, like, kind of the stories that I wanted to tell through the lens of, like, how Scott Snyder tells these big, crazy stories, but has heart in them as well.
Yeah. Uh, well, I guess I gotta ask, what are your impressions? What's your impression of Eddie Gathegi, who is portraying Mr. Terrific in the live action movie? I mean, obviously, we've only gotten maybe a combined total of not even a minute of seeing him in the costume on screen with the T spheres. But based on what we've seen so far, I mean, do you like the look? I mean, what
Yeah.
type of impression do you get from that?
I think the look is great. I like Eddie. I mean, like, listen, any justice that I can get for Darwin, I'm gonna take.
Dude, I'm
Um,
so glad you said that because I was like, wait a minute, Darwin is getting a comeback. This is what
right,
happened to
right,
him.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Darwin didn't die. He just switched to another universe. So yeah, he's a great actor. I love what he does on screen. There's so many roles of his that I love. And the look is perfect. I
It is
you
pretty good.
know, I'm a It's so weird to me. It's so weird to me because, like, I'm on Reddit and on all the boards. I never
Hmm.
comment or anything, but it's so weird to me how many people are, like, thinking and hoping that James Gunn will fail. And I just think, one, you're not a true fan if you are hoping that something fails. Um, because, the Marvel people will tell you they want DC stuff to do well, because it creates an atmosphere where
Yeah,
everybody gets to do well,
exactly.
right? So it's like, um, but also I think that you'd be foolish to bet against James Gunn. You just
Come
be
on.
foolish.
The
Like, the
track
guy,
record
like,
speaks for itself, man.
speaks for itself. I mean, he took Peacemaker and made a classic. I mean, that first season is so good. So for
Thank you
me,
for
it's like,
reminding me that season
yes,
2 has still not been out yet, man.
no,
Now
my
I'm sad.
God. I know, but you can't go wrong with this guy. Guardians of the Galaxy, like, he took nobodies
Mhm.
and made them into, like, and look, I'm an old school Guardians of the Galaxy guy. When the movie came out, I was like, I don't know any of these characters except for the raccoon. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
um, but so for me, like, I am so, and also I will say this is that I do not hate the Snyderverse. I just always felt the Snyderverse was not for me. Um, that's
Well
the way I
said.
feel about, like, everything, is that, like, if I don't like it, it just means it's not for me. Like, that's not my thing. Um, but my number one reason why I didn't like the Snyderverse, or why I felt like it was not for me, is because I felt like they got Superman wrong. I felt like, Superman, for me, it has to be it has to be a version of All-Star Superman, because All-Star Superman got who the character was so perfectly. Like, if you can get that, if you can get that and Christopher Reeves and that feeling that you get from those two things,
Mm.
you've
Speaking of,
nailed Superman. You've
yeah,
nailed it. And I don't think, I think that Henry Cavill looked great, and I think he probably could have been
yeah,
those,
with a
but the
better
script
script.
and right,
Hmm.
better script and better, direction, it could have been that, but it wasn't. So for me, like, looking at what when I saw the trailer of Superman with James Gunn, like, I got choked up because I was like, ah, my guy is back. My guy is back.
I was like, well, when I watched it, I was like, what is this feeling that is bubbling in my chest? And
Right.
oh my God, I think it's hope.
Yes,
Hope
yes.
that a DC movie is going to be really good.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I gotta say, Eddie Gathegi looks great as Mr. Terrific. The little bit that we've seen, just on some basic fanboy shit. I really hope they nail the T spheres, because I think
Me
that
too.
is such a cool addition about Mr. Terrific. I think that's what kind of like, obviously gives them, the ability to be on par with these heroes and these villains, at least physicality wise and power
Yes.
wise. But I think the T spheres, man, like just the amount of things they could do with it on screen to make it interesting. Like in the comic books, he's using them as, even in the cartoons. By the way, I feel like we definitely got to shout out
Yeah.
Justice League Unlimited,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he's awesome in that.
Yep.
Voiced by Michael Beach at that. But
Yep.
like the T spheres, you can use them as shields and infiltration, and you can bring up data. It's like, it's like Iron Man's suit in sphere form.
Right, right, right. And in the comic book, we are striving to use the T spheres in all the ways you know them, but
Oh
also
hell
in
yeah!
ways that you haven't seen them.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
excited.
because, like, my thing is, like, if I had T spheres, there are things that I would do that I've never seen done.
Like what?
And well, I don't want to, I don't want to tell. I want to tell.
Okay, okay, okay.
I would just say that two things I would say is that one of the conversations I had with Val is I was like, Val, you know what I really want to do? I really want to have Terrific team up with character X. And when he teams up with character X, we should think about it the same way Colossus and Wolverine, when they team up, they have the
Mm,
fastball special.
yeah.
We need to make our
Oh,
own
that's cool. That's
fastball
cool.
special for these two characters. And he was like, whoa. So we got like it'll be in the final episode in six, final issue in six, where these two characters team up and they get their own like kind of fastball special.
I've noticed that is the second time that you've called issue an episode, which I've kind of done myself a couple of times, because just that like
Yeah,
that episodic nature of a lot of
right.
comics. But it does bring to mind a question that Drew had for you. I asked him to ask me a couple questions, or to give me a couple questions for you, and one of his questions was, do you have the entire story written out? Like, do you write the scripts much like you do a TV? Are you treating this episodically, every issue episodically?
Yeah, totally. So because there are so many tight plot points that I have to hit, we outline the whole thing, and then you start writing. And then, like, I think once I'd written issue three, I decided to go back and redo the whole outline so that we could see where the plane was landing. And then so I did that, and now like every issue that I write is more in line with like the thing, because the thing is that, like, to me what's fun about a script is learning, is that like your character wants to do this. Like, I didn't think about Michael doing this, but now he that makes sense for him, so like let's do that, and it's different than what I thought of before. So yeah, it's all like right now I am currently writing issue five, um, and because because the plotting is so tight, I've written scenes for issue six. But yeah, 100%. Like by the time it comes out, I will have finished all the writing, and we'll go back and like like today I was doing a lettering pass on issue two, and we realized, oh, we tweak something in issue 3, so maybe we should go back and tweak that in 2 and, make it all come together. So, yeah, it's been great to have, like, the leeway to do that. I don't know if I was doing a weekly book, which honestly, like, at this point in my career, I don't wanna do a weekly book, um, because it's a lot of work, whereas, like, doing a mini series, I can find time in my schedule to, like, break out and just do that. Um, by the time I start the writer's room for my show, I will be working on issue 6. And then, it's small stuff while I'm working on the show. Then when the show
Got
is
it.
over, hopefully I'll be doing another miniseries, so I can just drop them in these little
Yeah.
places.
Okay. Well, you brought up doing a lettering pass, and I want to talk about the artistic team that you've got with you, and I want to hear specifically what each person brings. So you've got on art duties Val DeLandro, who's a successful comic writer or artist himself. He's drawn for DC Comics on like Black Manta, as well as Image Comics Bitch Planet. And then you've got colorist Marissa Luis. Um, and letterer Lucas Gattani or Gattoni. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. But I guess starting with Val and working to Lucas, like what does each person bring to the project?
Sure. Well, and we also have Edwin Galman,
Okay, okay,
who is doing the art in the present day story. Um, and so what Edwin does, I'll start with him because like it's kind of chronological order, so to speak. What Edwin does is he really grounds the book in the current DC universe. And so like he's got a spread of which I will actually send you now, that you can see but not post.
oh man,
Um,
the perks
he's
of being a comic podcast host and friends with
yes.
Al. Yeah, the perks of being friends with Al.
He's got like spreads of the story that like literally, if you look at it, you will see like it is current day DC Comics. This is like what's going on in the world now. So he brings that feeling of like right now to the world. Whereas like Val has this amazing ability. Go ahead, go ahead. What were you about to say?
Really quick, this is an interior page you sent me. Like
Yes, this is an interior page.
this is insane. Like this is
Insane.
like some just off the cover. It's like some Dennis Cohen meets like Dan Mora. The colors look amazing. Wow, this is really good. This is like
Yeah.
awesome. I thought this was like just a cover or something.
Oh
Oh
no,
no.
let
Okay,
me sh-
that's sick.
let, so this is from the that's issue 1, page 1.
Okay.
This is issue 2, or issue 1, pages 2 and 3.
And I know listeners, you're like, we can't see anything. Well, look, you're just gonna have to get the book.
You're
All right.
just gonna have to wait.
Let me just have a moment. All right. Can I have something
Yep.
from me one day? And this is okay, and this is Val's artwork that you just sent me.
No. This is Edwin. This
Oh
is Edwin.
wow. This dude is hella talented.
Yeah, no, he's sick.
Okay.
He's
I
sick.
see what you mean about it being tied into the main continuity. Okay, continue.
Exactly,
This is
exactly,
awesome.
exactly. So he gives us that, and then what we get from Val. Val's style is just like it's like I don't know even know how to explain it. It's just it's hardcore, centered in like he can do emotion really well. I mean really well. I'll send you a page of this may be my favorite page in the whole damn book. But the emotion that he brings out in the characters is just it's just amazing. So he does that.
Oh wow, that's good.
Yeah, he does that. He does that emotion really well. He does the feeling of like while the book looks modern and current, it still looks like we're looking
Hmm.
back a little bit.
Yeah, I really like the like this dichotomy between these
Yeah.
styles. To your
Yep.
point, Ed's artwork falls very much in line with like DC's current house style. A little reminiscent of like how Dan Mora's kind of drawing the characters.
Right.
And then yeah, you're right. Val's is like a nice stark contrast where like these heavy inks and things like lends to
Yep.
that emotion. Oh wow.
Yep. And what I love about it is like seeing them both together, like they all kind of it just flows really well. Marissa is like an old friend of mine, and I we have not worked together before, but I just love her colors. I mean, she's great. And Andrea reached out to her and got her on the project, and she's just killing it. She has there's a panel, my maybe my second favorite page that is in episode 2 or issue 2. And the way she did it, her coloring is just like just it's the star of the page. And then the letterer, like he just like he's so good at like just bringing it all together because like as you're getting these pages in, yeah, I for me, I'm just like, oh my god, like that's when I just see the inks, I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. Then Marissa does, whoa, oh my god,
Yeah,
and then like the letterer brings it in, and like that's what makes it all sing
yeah.
because he takes the words and zaps it in.
Really quick, I'm noticing on one of the preview pages that you sent
Hmm.
that it looks like the T spheres are also part of the
Yes,
narration or caption box. That's brilliant. Come on,
yes, yes, yes,
I'm getting my
yeah.
tear sphere action. Hell yeah,
Yes, he does. It's been a pleasure to work with all of these
that's
people.
cool.
The editors have been great. Like I said, Andrea and I are old friends, and Marquise is just super smart and knowledgeable about DC. So like when I have a question about certain things, like he helps me figure it out. It's I could not have had a better team on this book.
You know what else you couldn't have had better is
Hmm.
the variant covers, which I think
Oh
is
my God!
also a bragging right on its own. So the A cover is done by Val De Landro. And then you've got 3, at least right now. I'm sure it'll balloon number wise as we get closer to the release. But currently, right now, in terms of variant covers, speaking about a guy Tom King, you got Mitch Gerard doing a
Yes,
variant cover. He's doing the B cover, so the same
yes,
guy that drew all of the awesome Mister Terrific scenes in the Strange Adventures comic is doing is doing a variant cover for you. That's got to feel good. Like the artist that and the artist that
yes.
was paired with the writer that inspired you to do Mr. Terrific is doing your variant cover? Come on. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, it ridiculous. When they showed him to me, I was just like, "Oh, what is my life?"
Yeah.
You know?
And I guess on that same train of thought, I mean, you've got Doc Shaner, who is,
Yes,
to me, like a modern day, Darwin Cook level,
yes,
doing the C cover, who also contributed heavily to the Mr. Terrific story. I think he did all of the parts of Strange Adventures that were set in the past, and Mr. R
yes,
did all the present. So
yes.
I don't know, a lot of a lot of similarities between that series and your series being a
Mhm, mhm.
two-part story. And then last but not least, if we're talking like Black excellence here, you got Dennis Cohen contributing a
Man,
one in a very one of the incentive covers, but Dennis Cohen, I mean, come on, man, comic
I
legend, Dennis
a
Cohen.
legend, legend. I have a picture on my phone of me and him together because,
Oh,
I mean,
that's rad.
from, like, I think I met him in, like, 2018 or whatever, like, he doesn't
Hmm.
remember me at all, but I'm just like, "Ah," when they showed me that, I was like, "You got to be kidding me. You have
Damn.
got to be kidding me. This is like a
So,
nerd's
so
dream."
no, for sure. So when it comes to variant covers, like it's unknown to you. You're not sure who's going to be doing the art for variants. You don't get to like have a hand in it. It's like it sounds like DC editorial or however that gets worked out. So this was all a surprise for you.
All surprise, all
Ooh,
surprise. And, I would say
that's
that,
awesome.
like, my editors, they have deep relationships, so they
Oh, I
just
bet.
call people up and say, "Hey," and I just, they sent me the covers, and I was like, are you
Eh,
can I curse
Yeah,
on here?" Like, I was like,
absolutely.
"Are
Um,
you fucking kidding me?" Like, "Get the fuck out of
yeah,
here."
I guess I could not think of a better trio of like
Yes.
variants for you. That's awesome. All right, Al, I want to shift gears here.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we'll get. I'll let you have a final say about the comic and what's coming out. But I want to shift gears here because I'm thinking about friends of the show that have also submitted questions for this episode. Um, and in this one in particular, I asked you a couple of questions from Drew, but my pal Jeff Fremid, who is not only he's a friend of the show, huge fan of the podcast, as well as a patron. So he's going to get extra accolades and perks. But I ran into him at Collective Con this past weekend. We struck up a conversation. I had a feeling he was familiar with you. I brought up your name, and he got super excited. He's a big fan of Reveal, which you did with State of the Reunion. And I mentioned to him, and he's also a huge comic book head. But I mentioned, hey, Al's writing a Mr. Terrific comic. Same energy and hype that Drew gave me, Jeff gave me that tenfold. and I asked if he had any questions for you, and he had a couple questions here. He wants to know. I know Monarch season 2 just wrapped filming last month. Can you tell us anything about it? And is there a season 3 planned? Also, after Mr. Terrific, any other comic writing projects in the work?
Okay, so on Monarch, I don't know if there's a season 3 planned. I think that, like, I don't know. And I can't tell you much about season 2 because men with black suits and dark glasses would be knocking on my door. I
I
think it's gonna
imagine.
be good. I would say that, like, the things that you loved about season 1 will be back. Um, and yeah, Kurt Russell is front and center in it. It's gonna
Can you
be
share what episodes we should be on the lookout that you maybe specifically wrote
Yeah,
or had a
so
hand in?
in season 1, I wrote episode 8, and in season 2, I think so what happens is like we work on it together. You write your episode, and then the room breaks and they go out and make it. And
Hmm,
so stories get moved around. And so
sure.
I think that my story ended up being broken up into episode 3, 203, or episode 3 of season 2 and episode 4 of season 2. I think that's where it ended up. So yeah, I'm excited to see it too because I've been, because I worked on it, and I'm friends with, all the people that are still out shooting it or whatever. I get pictures and stuff and I see like some stuff that we worked on and like, oh my God, that looks great. But I have not been in the mix on that and like since I think my time on Monarch ended in June. Um, so yeah, like I don't know. All I know is like the couple pictures. I know that they shot in Australia, they shot in Thailand, and then I think we definitely went back to Tokyo. Um, they're
I'm
all over.
sorry. I heard you say they shot in Australia, and I'm like, well, damn, they didn't even need to pay for CGI. They could just shoot in the outback, and
I
any
know.
lizard they find is probably the size of Godzilla in Australia.
Exactly,
They got
exactly,
monsters there. All right.
exactly.
And then I want to get to a second question, but I kind of want to alter it, or I want to add to it too. He wants to know, after Mr. Terrific, do you have any other comic book projects lined up? And what I want to also hear is, I guess, given, let's say they gave you like the keys to the kingdom, right? Whether it be DC, and I also include Marvel. If you could write any other characters, who else would you be writing? I mean, we've already stated that you got a
Mm,
chance to write Nightwing, who's one of your favorites in the Bat
yes.
family in 2017. Now you're getting to write Mr. Terrific. I guess, who else is a white buffalo for you in terms of characters?
Yeah, I mean, because I've been working on Mr. Terrific for a while now, I have what I think is a really great idea for Mr. Terrific. Um, and I know that a lot of people, a lot of creators don't like creating new characters for DC or Marvel because those characters can go off and make millions of dollars and you don't get
For
anything for
sure.
it.
Yeah.
My thing is like, look, I just like playing in the sandbox and it's okay. So I got a new idea for a bad guy that I think would be so awesome to create for DC. So yeah, I would love to do another miniseries with Mr. Terrific. I think in that mini series, the way it is in my head right now, it would start off with this really obscure group from DC called the Guild of Detection, which is like, you know, um, Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, Hawkman, the Question, uh, the Chimp. That's the
Detective Chimp, yeah.
detective. Yeah.
Oh, this
Uh,
is a kind of. I mean, I didn't recognize the team when you said it, but I
mhm.
just Googled it, and this is like a pretty badass powerhouse team.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like my idea would be that they discover something and they come to the smartest man in the world to figure it out. And Mr. Terrific kind of takes over the case.
That's cool.
So yeah, I really want to do that. I think if I had so I have not been keeping up with Marvel. So I'm not sure like where the stories are with them right now. If I uh if I could have my way, I would love, love, love to restart the New Warriors for Marvel.
Hmm.
Um, I've always been a huge fan of Night Thrasher, and I would want to bring as much as the original lineup back as possible, because that original lineup that was written by Fabian Nicieza, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I love that book. I love that book so much. So I would love to do that. For DC, I'm forever and always going to be a Titans fan. Um, I would love to do some stuff with that. Um, I have an idea for a Flash story that I think I'm gonna pitch. Um, because I dig the Flash, but like this story is like so yeah. I mean, like I think that the thing is that like artists, no matter what your art is, it's important for you to reflect the times that you live in. And I have a story uh, that reflects the times that we live in that is a Flash story. So I really want to do that. I think that that's going to be the thing that I pitch next. So yeah, like a couple little things. I have this wild idea. I don't know where the story goes. I'm just going to say it out loud. That someone else is going to steal it, but we could just say that I said it here first.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you
Copyright.
remember? Right, exactly. Do you remember the John Wick uh movie? I think it was two, maybe it was three, that Holly Berry was in, and she had the dogs with her or whatever.
Yeah, I think that was number two because they had to go to I think like Morocco or she owned like a
Morocco,
club in
yes,
Morocco or some desert and
yes.
all that. Yeah, I remember that.
I want to do a Black Panther story where he is with a pride of Black Panthers, actual Black Panthers, and they are fighting together. Like he is
Oh,
using them the way Holly Berry used those dogs.
like some
Wouldn't
Jane Foster shit.
Yes, wouldn't that be badass? Like the Black Panther, like I just have this image of him showing up with, like bad guys below him. He's up top, and then the bad guys are like, oh, we got him, and then suddenly, like the actual Black Panthers come out of the
Yeah.
shadows, and they together like fuck some shit up. That would be, oh, that'd be awesome. That'd be
I,
so
I
awesome.
I said Jane Foster. I meant to say Jane Goodall.
Yes,
So the
yes,
Jane Goodall of
yes,
Marvel
yes,
Comics. That's
yes.
a badass concept.
I thought of it the other day. I don't know what the story is, but I think like, oh my god, that would be so badass. That'd be so badass. Because if
And
you
then you
think
got
about it, we've never seen the Black Panther fighting with a pride of Black Panthers. That would be dope.
and then I guess like the last protagonist or antagonist could be M'Baku, and now he's got to go up against
Mm,
literal white
what?
gorillas.
Exactly, exactly. There's so much you could do, man. There's so much
Yeah.
you could do. Yes.
Yeah, that's dope. Well, like if there's anyone that can make that happen, Al, you managed to. I mean, like I said, you're multi-talented, man. You've got your hand in a little bit of everything, and I hope that I have a feeling that Mr. Terrific Year One is going to be a success. Just judging from the amazing art you've shared, the incredible premise that you're talking about, the team you've got behind you, I foresee that this won't be the last comic book thing that we get from you. But I've got one more question on the topic to get us back to Mr. Terrific. You brought up that you're on Reddit, you're checking out sites and kind of hearing it's seeing the just kind of being a part of the comic book online community. And that was something I noticed too when it came to Mr. Terrific. A couple of the sites that I went to where they were promoting it, it had a solicitation that had comment sections. There seems to be a sense of hype around this title. There seems to be Mr. Terrific fans that have been craving a new series, and folks that have been interested in his Tom King run that are also maybe interested in seeing what James Gunn done with him. So perfect timing in terms of this comic series coming out. What would you say to the folks that, let me take a step back, in addition to that hype, I'm also seeing an interesting amount of folks that are curious and might I and dare I say, and respectfully at that, maybe cautiously optimistic about a brand new series with this spotlight on it, with a brand new writer. I will say I think I've seen that equally, where it's like, yo, a new Mr. Terrific series? Hell yeah. Now, this Al Letson guy, I'm not familiar with the radio stuff, and he's a first timer. What do you say to those cautiously optimistic fans that are excited for Mr. Terrific and curious to see what a new writer does with the character, or a new writer does with with DC?
In the words of Wesley Snipes, always bet on black.
Yeah, damn it, Al. That's like the most perfect question I could. That's the most perfect answer I could ever hear. I think
I
that's enough said. You can
listen.
stop right there. That's enough said. But continue.
There's enough said. I would just say that that my entire career from entering into journalism and never doing journalism before, but entering in it and competing on a high level, like as a journalist, not to brag, but as a journalist, I have 3 Peabodys and 2 Emmys. Um, that and on a theater level, never went to school for theater and have done off Broadway shows and plenty of accolades and blah 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 and all of that shit. Uh, to me, every time that I get an opportunity to do something, I'm a little black kid from Orange Park that didn't go to college, that everybody treated like they would, that because I'm dyslexic, didn't think that I would amount to anything. And so every time I get up to the plate, my goal is to knock it out the park. I settle for nothing than excellence. So for all of those people that are worried about a new writer coming up, I would just tell you that like I settle for nothing less than excellence. And I'm telling you today that it may not be this series, but before it's all said and done, I'm gonna have an Eisner as well. So
Oh, come on now. Speak into existence.
so so yeah, tell them it's time to get on the Letson train now.
Come on.
Because it's leaving the station and we don't stop.
Choo choo, motherfuckers. I like
Exactly.
it. Man, I wish I had my I normally have a air horn sound effect. I would definitely be dropping the funk flex bombs right now. That was very well said, Al. And with that being said, ladies and gents, this is the Short Box Podcast. We just finished talking to Al Letson about his upcoming series, Mr. Terrific Year One. We talked about a little bit about his career, his life, and art. And this probably won't be the last time you hear from Al. But please be sure to check out his new project, Mr. Terrific Year One, Issue One. Hits comic shops on Wednesday, May 28th. I said it in the intro. I'll say it again. That's the day after my birthday. If you've been pondering what to get me, I'm a hard person to shop for. I'll make it easy. Just go pick up Mr. Terrific Year One at your local comic shops. I'll have links to the book. You can read the solicitation for yourself, see the team as well. And I'll also include links to Al Letson's social media. So please give him a follow. Al, brother, any parting words or shameless plug before we sign off?
Shameless plug, Gotham City in Jacksonville
There we go.
and Cape and Cal in Oakland, California. The two of the best comic shops ever, and Batter with the amazing voice, one of the best hosts ever. Those are my shameless plugs.
Those are shameless plugs I can get behind. Thank you so much, Al. Like I said, I would like to have you back. Maybe whenever issue 6 comes out and we've got the whole story, we can talk some more about Mr. Terrific. All right.
Damn straight, let's do it.